Hi guys, this is David Negrin, host of the Script Podcast and executive director of the NYC Screenwriters Collective. I'm excited to announce that we've created a Patreon campaign for the Script. Patreon is like a Kickstarter, but it allows you to give ongoing pledges every month and receive ongoing rewards. Of course, the Script Podcast will continue to be free, but we're just asking for a little help. So please, check out all our rewards, join our inner circle. Become a patron of the Script Podcast at patreon.com/thescript.
Samuel! Who's there?
Let's leave the wood.
This is The Script, a podcast for screenwriters, by screenwriters, all story, all the time. The deepest story analysis anywhere on the internet. Tonight, The Witch. Robert Eggers, written and directed by. I'm David Negrin. Our screenwriters tonight are Alka Kushalani and Christina Leith Malin. Guys, you know, we did the horror series in the fall, but now we've got some February horror. The Witch, you know, the Black Phillip, a new monster in the epic, you know,
Wait, don't give it away.
the compendium of horror films. No, we're giving it away. This podcast is all spoilers all the time. What did you guys think of The Witch? I had a great time. I didn't know what kind of horror movie I was walking into. I know there was buzz, but this is a great film.
Yeah, it was really, really impressive. This was a debut feature by Robert Eggers, and I thought he did a fantastic job. And I think this is going to be one of those rare occasions. This is my prediction for tonight, is that it's going to be a love fest.
Robert Eggers was a production designer and costume designer, and so I mean, you know, the look of the film was very deliberate, but the story here is the story. Like this was such a great script. This was such a well tailored story that for the most part stayed out of the horror tropes of the witch mythology, and it was able to surprise me. Christina, I'd be able to hear.
No, I didn't.
I'd be interested to hear what you. I was gonna say, Christina, I'd be interested to hear if you were surprised, being our horror scholar in.
No. I mean, see, the thing is, I like to talk to people that have seen it before me and be like, just give enough away so I want to see it, but don't tell me the end. No, you can tell me the end. And my friend basically said, you know, you're not going to be shocked by the ending, but you'll be very satisfied. The whole movie is very satisfying. And she hit the nail on what is that? Pin on the nail on the pin, the head.
Nail on the head. Yeah, sure.
The head.
That's the thing. Yeah, it was, there were total witch tropes. Are you kidding me?
No. I say it used witch tropes, but it didn't use cliche plots. It was able to surprise us. It was definitely in. I mean, he called it The Witch, so that's a very high bar to set in the horror world. People in the horror world were probably like, "Oh, seriously? You know, is this going to be the sequel to The Craft? You know, is this going to be, what was the one with Bette Midler?
Oh, Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus, right?
See, no, the thing is, and I know we're about to get into it, what I think for you two, because if I'm a horror scholar in training, you guys are horror snobs. You are total, both of you.
Well, we've
Guilty.
we are your disciples. We've
name
learned
one
from
Roger
you.
Corman
We
that
learned
I'll
it by
think
watching
past
you.
Guys. You just admitted you're horror snobs. So what this gave you, I think both of you, was, barring being in the horror genre, it was a solid dramatic story of a family. Like if we had not had the witches and they just died from starvation, it would have been a sad story, but it would have been a strong, dramatic story about the failings of a father and the choices that a father makes. The whole witch edge to it enters it into a different market, but it was a solid story.
Yeah, and I think, look, we've done, on this podcast, we did the Contracted series. We did Goodnight Mommy. We did Crimson Peak. So we've gone all over the horror, battlefield. And now this is something a lot more traditional. Between the last time you guys and I spoke, I watched The Descent. Finally, after you guys kept talking about it so many times, and I was amazed by that, such good storytelling.
That was solid too.
And
friendship.
The Descent rocked my world.
Yep.
And so The Descent had it was an all-female cast, except for, I guess, the monster guys. How did you guys, was this movie about, because for me, a lot of the metaphor in The Witch was in the core metaphor of the old, witch trial kind of thing, that, a man is going to blame the women in his life for the mistakes that he made. And then, when they call him on it, you're a witch, I'm going to burn you. Don't speak to me that way, my daughter.
Yeah. I've read somewhere recently, and I think this says it really kind of very succinctly, is that each era or each generation gets the horror films we deserve, right? And I think
that's brilliant.
And I think what is interesting about this is that it's like, I think we should get into all the many interpretations of this film, but I think for me, the thing that I'm left with is this is definitely about, like, it's a metaphor for the danger of religious fanaticism. I mean, and this is the era we live in. There's a new wave of ultra-conservative, religious right people all over the world, right? All over, there are many world societies that are dealing with this extreme viewpoint. And I think that's why The Witch really strikes a chord, is because it goes there. It goes right into the heart, the belly of the beast of religious fanaticism, and deals with that. I think that's.
But who was the religious fanatic in The Witch?
All of them. This family, it's like they're praying constantly. They're I think they're exiled because of something to do with the church. Now, we don't know what that is.
It's not spoken of. See, I didn't go down the religious route with this, because we begin with the father, William, being allowing himself and his family to be expelled from the plantation, because he feels, in a prideful way, that he's more devout, yes, religiously, than these pilgrims, which is hilarious because, there are a bunch of pilgrims, they're all pretty devout, and this guy's like, no, you guys are not religious enough for me, and they're like, go ye, get the hell out of our town. And it begins with him being this sort of zealot, but he is the most down to earth the whole time. When things start to get the Crucible, very Salem witch trials, he's like, nah, everybody relax. We'll before we call anybody a witch or talk about the devil, we're gonna see if there's natural means here. And even when he started to think his daughter was a witch, he was like, I still love you. You're gonna have to, renounce the teachings of the Lucifer and stuff. And she's like, what? But so I saw this more as a parable about one of these old school warnings, like, you better not leave the group. You better not be different. You better be conformist, because when you leave the group, the witch will find you. And your family will go to shit. Like, if you must conform. And that sounds like the movie begins by saying it's a New England folktale, right? Yep. And so it sounds like that old school kind of, you better get in line, or the witch is gonna get you. So
I think that's valid. I think there are a lot of ways to look at this. I mean, this could also be like a film like Carrie in a way. It's kind of like
Oh, that's a great one.
full on, you know, teenage female sexuality, and at the end you really have vengeance, right? It's a tale of vengeance. So it's kind of, I think there's so many different interpretations, and going back to Christina's point about, you know, you can see it in terms of genre in a couple of different ways. This could be, there are parts of it that are very squarely within that historical drama genre.
the
It's
dialogue
not
was
horror at all.
fantastic. The
Really.
dialogue was fantastic. The
Oh, yeah.
old English or the Middle English of the Pilgrims ish. I don't think they opened with like a date or anything, but they
No, they didn't.
but this is supposed to be the 1630s apparently, according to IMDb, New England.
I did. Okay, so what I saw it 2 days ago, and it's just because it was sold out on opening night when I tried to go see it, and literally 3 people walked out as
When did they walk out?
they walked out as they were standing in front of the open landscape, and this is where they're going to plant themselves as a new home.
That's early. That's like
I
5 minutes
know.
in.
Wow.
But
That's like
realized
2 minutes in.
Well, here's the thing. I thought to myself, yeah, I get it, because you're so used to Blair Witch with someone running through the woods when you hear that, or I just finished this Saw. Like we
Right.
have
Somebody
this kind
heard
of-
this was a horror movie, and
Yeah.
it actually did take a while. When we get to structure, the break into two comes pretty late, I think. But just, you're right. The dialogue was sophisticated and required an ear. And
Not just that. And this is she said it. Alka just said it when she says we get the horror for our time. You know what? The first thing I thought of when they were walking out, and I'm looking at this landscape with this muted colors and this really thick accents that everyone had, I was like, holy poop! They're doing a remake of The Crucible. That's the first
right.
thing.
So
And
of course, the Crucible comes up. Yeah.
That with a
Yeah.
combination of all the witch hunts and the Scarlet Letter, I was like, this is our version of The Crucible, or an updated version, but with a real witch, not just a witch hunt, but like an actual witch this time.
Well, to their credit, I think they didn't go. They had about one scene where they go all Crucible and witch trials on us, and they moved on real quick from that. And I think that was necessary, and I think that was necessary to the plot. I agree that image that you're describing definitely stuck with me too. As like I don't know, a man who, thinking about fatherhood, you like, this dude exiled his own family, and they get on this covered wagon and they start going towards the forest, and I'm like, dude, what's your plan? Like that was like not a good decision, and they just keep going and going, and you're like, there's not like a town he's going to, or his brother-in-law's
Not at all.
to crash at. Next
Wait,
scene.
hold on, I have a quick
Yeah.
add to that, and I think I'm segueing, because if you look at, and this is where I think Alka will take it over, your opening image is her face, but your opening VO is his discussion about faith and religion.
Yes.
So I feel like that's super telling right there.
Yeah, I think
And
you make a
this
great
guy,
point.
his voice, that
Oh, his voice.
opening. Oh my
Oh.
God.
Boy,
You would follow him into the
I would
forest.
follow him to the woods.
Yeah. What red-blooded American woman wouldn't?
What? So he was handsome, William? You guys
He
were
was
digging?
not,
Not
no,
handsome.
no, not his face.
Okay. Not a handsome man.
Let me be clear. This was
But-
with his back to us, and he was just like facing the
But with
man's
his
Really?
booming voice.
Oh.
Yeah. that voice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hypnotic. It's kind of there was
Sexy.
a quality to it. Yeah, there was a quality to it that was
Rounded,
just like
sexy.
it was and it was like old world. It was like, this man is going to take you into the woods, and he's going to set up his homestead, and you're going to eat
Watch
like
it.
porridge. He's going to
Why
kill
are you so
food.
sexual with your face as you say, eat some porridge?
Very
It's
dirty.
the most
I like
ancient
this.
grain I could think of, which is, I know, not that ancient, but it's like slop. You would eat that like old world slop, and then you would
You're at this whole frontier
you would
fantasy
go and you would
going.
kill, animals, and then you would eat that, and it would be good.
And Alka, that was very much the plan.
Yeah.
Right? And then but it does not work out. Something I was thinking about after, and we'll get to this when we get to structure, is he was totally inept. He couldn't even shoot the rabbit.
That's what I'm saying. This has killed me. If
Yeah.
James Bond had been that weak, there would not Ian Fleming. what the hoo-ha?
Yeah, he couldn't do anything right. He couldn't get the crops in.
And that's what she
couldn't
tells him.
shoot. And that is, in the classic horror sense, Christina, correct me if I'm wrong, that is his like original sin, right? That is the original sin that he's forcing his family to pay for.
Pride.
His pride.
Is pride number one?
Yeah. Well, that's his thing, right? And they even say it to him in the
his
trial.
daughter. Oh,
yeah, the wife.
And
is it the wife or the daughter that accuses
the
him?
daughter. The
Thomason.
daughter.
Yeah.
Well, she tells him, like, when he confronts her, she confronts him. It's kind of close to the end of Act 2.
Yeah, that was great.
She tells him, like, you cannot farm, you cannot hunt. All you do is chop wood. True.
Right. I heard you and Mother speak of ridding the farm of me. You took Mother's cup and let me take responsibility. You let Mother be your master. She's like, because he asked her, he said, he's talking about the devil. He goes, speak truth to me. And she's like, oh, you want to hear some truth? Dad, I got something for you.
You could actually play this in schools under curriculum, because there wasn't, I feel like
really?
it was PG-13. Well, there wasn't any straight out TNA. There was a little bit of witches tookie.
There was killing babies. And
it was
murdering
implied. It was implied.
And grinding them up.
And then the pulp was implied, exactly. But then,
that is
so.
I mean, that's
we need to. We can't go any further on this podcast without telling
Grapes of Wrath. That's
without telling everyone that they need to check out the Twitter handle for Black Phillip.
Alka should introduce. Alka, you should tell us your favorite post, because you're so all about this.
I am all over the Black Phillip Twitter feed, guys. I am all over it. I could not pick a favorite, but there's one right at the top that just kind of, it hooks you, and that is, if I have a baby, I'm gonna name him Black Phillip. And it was like some random dude that Black Phillip retweeted, and I think you go from there. It's
somebody asked.
It's genius.
Entertainment Weekly is interacting with Black Phillip.
Somebody asked Black Phillip Twitter feed, a question, and he's like, first you must remove your shift.
What?
What?
Okay, so that just tells you right there. Goat has a Twitter following and answers questions.
Yeah.
This is the time we're in.
Yeah, live deliciously is what it says in his Twitter feed. Genius. Absolute
really
genius.
Good. It's really
okay, can we do just we've been jumping around. How about biggest strength and biggest weakness? One up, one down for each of us, and then we'll get into structure and we'll move forward. Alka, would you like to go first?
Sure. I think I'm going to put the acting and dialogue into one nugget. I don't know. I have a lot of ups, but I'm going to go with that because it is so strikingly good. I mean, in spite of the fact that I think at some points you need subtitles, but that aside, I think it's really, really, these are tremendous performances. Great writing. My down is the ending.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
I kind of, I've circled that a couple times, and really kind of thought about what does that ending say? There's something, for me, there's something too literal about that ending.
Okay.
I think there's such a buildup of the mystery, and this film is so full of like paranoia and dread and these kind of intangible feelings, and then to end it in this way, which is totally like cut, dried, this is what happened, it felt it
Wow.
felt
Okay.
not worthy.
I'm sure we will get into talking about the ending. But so that was a low point for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Christina, one up, one down.
I'm so I feel like I'm with Alka that there's so many ups. I'm at a loss of what to pick, and I don't know that I have it down. So since she's covered the bases with dialogue and acting, I'll say the overall scenery design, the muted colors, the simplicity built around it made me, and the pacing made me appreciate really taking in a story again. And so that's my I'm gonna say it's my biggest barring what she's already said.
But you're
Um,
absolutely right. Like the this could have you could absolutely call this a period drama,
totally.
except that Eggers made sure that the pacing was fast enough to be a popular film, and of course, with all the supernatural stuff in it and the horror tropes in it, it became a genre film as well. But
Well,
it was
in the
somewhere
sense,
in between.
if we hadn't called it witch, if we called it the outsider family or whatever, like uh, compare the there is no blood to this. There are a lot of dramatic Schindler's List, a lot of dramatic films that have great amounts of social horror. So this could have totally been a drama had it been pitched a different way. My one down, and this isn't a down, but it's just what I'm gonna beg you guys to flesh out for me. If we start on her face and we don't match it with her VO, but we match it with his VO, I want to know the inciting incident that led them to that courtroom specifically. Was it something she did, or was it just his pride, or a combination? Like, did she kick a bucket or not get raped? I don't know. That kind of kickoff I would have liked a little bit more than a facial and a VO, an overarching VO. So, and
That's
that's
interesting because they kind of just drop us in there, no explanation.
except for they're going to take off.
Yeah.
I'd like to know, and I guess that would lead into if we had too much of a hint that she was a witch, or on the other side, if we had too much of a hint that it was his pride, then we would have leaned in a certain direction that maybe they wanted to leave ambiguous.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that was kind of for me like, what?
So, I'm gonna say my biggest strength of this film was I think they got me with the twist. I think the twist here was that Thomason is the titular witch. That this is a story about how you create a situation where a young religious girl, when asked if she will make a deal with the devil, says, yeah, no problem. Because by the end of this, she's got no family. She doesn't believe in the Lord anymore. Her dad disappointed her, and mother tried to kill her. And this is how the devil gets his witches, by setting up this whole thing. To me, the reveal was, wow, this is not about the witch. This is not necessarily about Lucifer embodied by Black Phillip. This is about how you recruit a witch. This is how you do it. They leave the group. They leave the power of the group. And yeah, this is how you birth a witch. Absolutely.
I feel like she was so terribly holy that's why I put down. It was like the evolution of, like, everyone just says, oh, she's a witch, but how does one become a witch, a demon, a vampire?
Yes. This was, and to me that twist was wonderful. And so I went with the ending totally, and because the whole time I'm like, the witch is the antagonist witch who was, and slowly we start to figure out that Black Phillip is an antagonist, and all of a sudden
Is he a warlock, or is he just a demon, or is he
I think
the
he's
devil?
Lucifer. I think
I
he's
think
the
he's
devil.
the devil. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the devil.
Black Phillips the devil. He's Lucifer. And when they show us the covenant at the end, 7 witches dancing around a fire, I'm like, oh my God, this is about Thomason. This movie was about the whole time he wanted her. And how do you get that? How do you get a girl who is religious and strong-willed and intelligent to sign on the dotted line of the Sign Your Soul Away contract? You do it by first making her father prideful and removing you from the group, and then all of the trappings of isolation that befall this family, and her as the eldest completely just lead this family down the road to a point where Thomason is so susceptible to the devil when he asks, would you like to live deliciously? Would thou like to live deliciously? She's like, of course. Of course. Our hero's not gonna be like, no, I'm gonna fight you off. No, she's down. Because this is how a witch is birthed.
Who wouldn't want to live?
I'm gonna start walking around. Wouldst thou like
and taste of butter?
Thou...
Who can turn down butter?
Butter, a pretty dress.
A pretty dress and butter.
I'm in.
Hell yeah, I'm in too.
In.
So that was
down though.
That was my big strength. The big weakness, I don't know. There was so much good stuff. I'm such a sucker for great dialogue. And for great cinematography and set design. This movie reminded me a lot of The Village, which is one of my favorite films.
I love The Village.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite films. I have one small I have very few complaints about this film. It was very, very perfect for me. My one complaint story-wise was that we didn't get to see the introduction of Black Phillip. We fast forward to the farm after they leave, and Black Phillip is just sort of one of the troublesome.
Was he on the original cart though?
Troublesome goats. No, I don't know if there were goats in the cart at all. Basically, there's a fast forward from when they leave the plantation to 6 months or a year down the road, and they've created a small farm for themselves, and they have goats, and Black Phillip is one of them, and he becomes he becomes important in the third act, very slowly in the second half of the second act. But, in my storytelling mind, in my rewriting mind, where we had a scene where William sneaks away, goes to the town, and he sells the cup to get Black Phillip.
That would have helped a lot.
And then Black Phillip is like the goat.
And the bear trap, Bear Trap and Black Phillip.
Sure. But Black Phillip is the goat nobody wants because he's trouble and the cup's not worth that much.
Oh, I love that he wasn't marked. I love that he was not marked, and it was just basically the twins, Mercy and Jonas, who were kind of singing about him.
They were the devil. And
they were the ones who kind of, and at first there was something unsettling, but you don't know what it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's whatever. And that little Mercy, she was a little creepster, right?
Oh, yeah.
God, she was totally scary.
And
those twins were very wicked, yeah.
Yeah, and so I like that Black Phillip was just kind of this world, and we kind of didn't know where he came from, his beginning, his end. I liked that because it kind of, it was like tightening the screw, was getting closer and closer to bringing us to the truth of what was going on there. And all of a sudden, this goat takes on a role. But it's a goat.
But the thing I love most about this movie, and this is part of the Lucifer devil mythology, is that he corrupts by grand plan, by stratagem. And he did. By the end of this film, you see that he's corrupted this girl by grand plan. And I just wanted to see where he first got introduced. Maybe that was in a cut, and people watched it, and they said, or the director watched it, and he said, you know what? I'm tipping my hand too much about Black Phillip, because the big red herring here is the witch. We think the witch is the main antagonist, and she is an antagonist. She's like the henchman.
She or they. We don't know
they.
that the young one that seduced Caleb is the same as the one that killed the other one.
Right.
Because we saw a coven.
Yeah, but in the beginning, she like I thought it could be the same woman.
I thought it was the same.
In a different form.
So did I, until I saw the coven, and then I was like, who chose who got the baby? It's like, I've been good and I've caught so many things, Lucifer. The baby's mine. People like argue about it. Like,
there was a tweet on the Black Phillip Twitter about a mortar and pestle or something like that. That was horrible.
Are we still talking about his Twitter? Yeah. We're so lame.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's transmedia at its best. I just left the movie 3 hours ago, and I want to watch Black Phillip's Twitter because I didn't get enough. So, guys, can I do a little structure? Do some beats.
Go for it.
The setup for this film, Alka, correct me please fill in any gaps. An uber religious father and his family are cast out of a plantation. The father sets up a new farm. They lay traps. They raise goats. The family is expelled. They keep calling it England. I guess that was New England, with how they referred to New England. There was in that image that we described, when they leave New England, when they're cast out of the plantation, there is, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but there is an image of Thomasin wearing red and a floppy big hat that is very archetypal of the old, like, Wicked Witch of the West look.
When?
At in that image where they're on the cart leaving the town.
Mm-hmm. And Scarlet Letter. No, that's sorry.
Yeah, she
referencing all this old stuff, but I didn't. Yeah, I don't remember that.
I noticed. I wrote it in my notes. There's when they're leaving the town. First of all, Thomasin doesn't want to go. Right. Everybody else. The wife is standing by her mound, proud. Let's get out of this town and be more religious. The twins follow, and Thomasin stands there, and she's like, "Really? We're leaving?"
Right.
It's a bad idea. They begin a new homestead, and they have a new baby, Sam. Poor Sam.
Yeah.
Mm.
I was talking to a friend after I saw the movie, and she said Sam dies first because he is the weakest, and everybody in this film has pairs, right? Like the twins are paired up, and
husband, wife.
The husband and wife
Thomas
are paired
and
up,
Caleb.
and Thomasin and Caleb are paired up, but the baby doesn't even have a pair. And so, again, this theme of groups, of sticking with your group and sticking together, comes up. So Thomasin takes the baby to the forest, just playfully, and this is what I believe is the catalyst, Alka. The witch steals the baby.
Agreed.
Uses it in a ritual. I'm not sure if she castrates the baby, but it's alluded to.
I'm sorry.
Am I wrong?
She
Christina?
Grinds the baby up. It doesn't matter. What I mean, at this point,
it does for the men viewers.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. The witch is very touchy with the baby. It's not the first. It's not the last moment of like pedophilia in the film either. Like the witch is very touchy with the baby.
It's not even pedophilia. It's incest because Caleb.
We got incest later. This is the witch on the baby,
Witch
right?
on the baby is pedophilia, but
And
I
then
feel
the witch on Caleb later is also
oh, you're right because he's a little one. Oh,
right. So
ugh. I take it
very.
back. This is not in any curriculum. Not
I
gonna happen.
know, right?
Yes.
so
Thank
so
you.
so we're getting a lot of very unsettling stuff up front, and to the director and the storyteller's credit, this opening scenario, this catalyst, is so disturbing and shows us a real witch. We are brought into this universe thinking there is jeopardy everywhere. These people are not safe. Witches are real. It's not a Salem witch trial thing anymore.
Right.
The jeopardy is there, and now we're storytelling.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the most audacious move here, right? Is that we have that question answered immediately. You see this old crone come in a red cloak, and she takes him off into her little hovel, and she grinds him up, right? And she covers herself in it with the the I don't know what
The innards.
And
the
isn't that the worst thing we could think of? And I'm
Yeah.
not sure, Christina.
That goes back to a trope, though.
I was going to ask you,
Trope of
is
bathing
that
in the blood of a youth?
okay?
Usually, it's a youth or a virgin of sorts, but that goes back to a trope.
Got it. Okay, so is that similar to
That the vampire, the historic Elizabeth Bathory, which is she's a real woman and she has the highest body count of murders in history, Eastern European, and she basically it was referenced in Hostel 2 and a horror movie that was a video game turned a horror movie. Anyway, Elizabeth Bathory has about 1,300 under her belt. And she didn't slay them. She was a countess, but she basically had virgins come to her, their throats slit, and she bathed in their blood. It's a ritual that they believe makes you younger if you bathe in virgins' blood and body. And
okay? Is that
That's a real ritual.
Isn't that softened with like the witch in Snow White, where who's the fairest of them all, or Maleficent?
But all of these witches vow to eat you.
Right. Yeah. The whole thing is
or not.
they're eating your youth so that they can have it for their
Exactly.
beauty, right? So that's classically done here. Okay.
I was just to backtrack on that. I feel like there's probably like a user guide for horror, because the first scene we get introduced to the language and the terminology for horror people that are so needing a quick plot. This is like how to slow you down and make you love horror. And then the second scene, did anyone notice that when they went off into the sunset on that rickety rickshaw, that was the longest sequence shot, like continual shot? Did you notice that?
I think that was on purpose. It was
exactly
to show how they are going out on their own and
agreed.
And they're going to be alone and they're on the frontier and nothing's going to save them. And guess what? Nothing does.
No. I know, but I mean, that's training horror people to get out of this mentality that every time you open a door, something jumps out at you,
Yes. We had some of those, but you know what? It built slower than your genre horror film, but eventually it paid off really well. Did I miss anything in the setup that's important, Alka?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
So I think, does anyone have a theme stated? I have one crack at the theme stated.
Go for it.
Yeah.
There's a moment where William says, "We will conquer this wilderness together," and I was like,
Yeah. Yes.
No, you won't.
Bingo.
Right? And so the wilderness being a metaphor for being alone, for the wild, for I can go against God, all sorts of I can go against Lucifer on my own without God. Basically, that's what he did. They left the town and the church. And
the Indians.
Yeah, that's true. The Native Americans were in there for like a minute, right?
Woohoo!
So that was their the protection, right? They left their protection, and said, "Yeah, I can fight. We'll be able to fight Lucifer ourselves." No, man, no, you won't. So that was the closest thing I had to a theme stated.
I like it.
Awesome. Now, for me, guys, the debate is really long. Everything what Alka, what did you have for the break into two?
I think the break into two happens when when they encounter the hair for the first time, and the
Agreed.
musket fires back into William's face. I think that's the break into two.
So, but that's Caleb and William. I thought our protagonist here is Thomason.
But I think in a way, this story is, it's about
family.
This, and I think it's like this family breaking down, and if you look at a lot of, if we can back up for just a second, if you look at stories about families against some kind of supernatural force, they usually somehow, like even like in a poltergeist or
I was totally thinking poltergeist.
What's that?
I was totally thinking poltergeist too. Like either they bond or they splinter.
They bond, yeah. But I think the splintering is much rarer, and I think that's what this story is about too. It's about this family going, being banished to the wilderness and losing their shit. So I think they're all kind of in this, it's definitely Thomason's story. She's the protagonist, but I think there's part of this which is like the magic, right? Which I'm going to say is the B story, by the way. Mm-hmm. But this part of magic where the hair is in this break into two moment, and while I was going along watching this film, I was thinking, every time there was some kind of magic that we saw, I was thinking, is this her? Is this the girl? Like, I kind of knew it was her story. I kind of knew this was her. Yeah, but I kept thinking, like, because she kept, like, in the middle, like, she blacks out, she's on the horse. She's everywhere when shit is going down.
She's the strongest character in the film.
And just like her mother was blaming her, I was blaming her. I was like, it's her. But
we're immediately drawn to her. I never thought it was her. I never thought she was the witch until the end, where it's obvious she becomes the witch.
Oh,
right?
I thought she was
I was on her team the whole way
through. That creepy twin girl was out.
Mercy, little Mercy. You just want to, she's that little. And Mercy and Jonas play dead at one point. Super, like, very, very crucible. Let me tell you guys my theory, and we don't have to agree on this. Catalyst breaking into a debate are always debatable, but I had debate. There was a lot for me. I had like a chunk of debate. Like, Father and Caleb check the traps together, and they debate whether Caleb will die if he goes to hell, because Caleb's really scared about going to hell. Thomason finds a bloody embryo egg at one point, and it's like, that's debating about whether this is an evil place or not. Yep. When William shoots the rabbit and hurts his eye, it's like debating whether he can do this or not. Then we get Black Phillip for the first time, and I don't know, maybe
I didn't process him as evil until very
neither did I. Although in my note I said a wild horned goat escapes. Parentheses, devil-like. Like, that dude looked like the devil.
Good.
So, in effect, I mean, that's actually feeling a little like the B story, the introduction of Black Phillip. What if Black Phillip's the B story? Oh my god. Then I have, we have that. Okay, so then there's the ancestral moments, right, where Caleb is like looking down Thomason's shirt, and then very soon after that, Thomason's taking her father's shirt off. And
that's a little deep.
For me, this goes back to the problem of separating from a group and isolating yourself. Little Caleb's a little boy who's about to enter puberty or is entering puberty, and if he was in a town with other girls, he would be checking out other girls. But the only developed girl around is his sister. And so this is one of the problems with isolation. And for Thomason too, there's no one else, there's no other man around except her father with his shirt off. So it's
that's deep. Yeah.
yeah. Thomason claims to and then there is the twins with their song, I be the witch of the wood, I come to steal you, clickety clack, clickety clack. I seen a witch in her riding cloak. The twins said they saw a witch in her riding cloak. I feel like they did see her. I feel like the twins were like, the twins and all their acting out was very much like, you know, the kids in a divorced family who are acting out. They're just reacting to their environment. Like there's a lot of shit going on here, and the twins, they're freaky, but they're freaky for a reason. I had our break into two really feeling like when Caleb and Thomason go to the forest together, so that Thomason won't be sent away. There's that moment where Caleb says, "Come, I'm gonna go into the forest. I'm gonna get the traps. I'm gonna get food and pelts, and then you won't be taken away." And then Thomason's like, "Take me with you," and he's like, "No," and she's like, "You're taking me with you." And then they get on a horse and they go into the forest together. And that felt like a more traditional break into two to me.
I'll buy that. You said so much stuff I want to comment on, but I'm
No, please. I was just trying to get at it.
No, okay, to super backtrack, we talked about family splintering versus families bonding and an overarching theme. I remember 13 Ghosts is the polar opposite to Poltergeist, and then 13 Ghosts, they went to this contraption and they all got separated, and that's what made it harder for them to survive. And in many cases, goes back to, are there any tropes? That trope that don't separate, because if we see it separated, we'll all get picked off. To that. Then when you guys said what the debate, did anyone notice that the family debate was this religiously supernatural or wolf supernatural?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Kept going back and forth, and it kind of stands to reason, like how supernatural is religion in general, that's kind of, if you uphold that kind of love of religion, which no one can actually prove but is written doctrine, then supernatural, certain aspects of supernatural occurrences could be just as believable as religious faith. So are you going to choose the wolf, which is like, okay, an animal, you know, that you could physically reach and touch, killed my kid? Or are you going to believe a witch grinded my child to make herself young?
The mother has another problem because she doesn't believe Thomason. Right? The whole time she's like, sure, a wolf took it. I think the mother has some. She just blames. She's so distraught at the loss of her baby that she blames her oldest daughter, which is a mind fuck for me. Like, how does this mother loses her maternal instincts slowly over the course of the movie, and I think fully by the scene with the dream sequence and then the crow that's you know, like that's eating her breast. Like, I think it was like a really good metaphor.
Forgot about that.
I know, yeah. I think it was like a really good metaphor for, all right, now this woman is no longer even a mother.
Is she hallucinating it off on the deep?
Yeah, and the next moment, it's she's trying to murder her daughter.
Well, I think it's like a gradual thing, right? Over the course of this film, like things fall apart, right? And I think this family starts off as a tight, pious unit, right?
Yep.
And this setting and this magic that they're kind of under the influence of, it tears them apart. And I think that you can read this even structurally. I think it's okay for us to have like different beats, because I think it really is very contingent upon what your interpretation is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you're looking at it like this is in a way about this journey of this young girl and how she becomes a witch, it's different then it's like, if you're looking at it as this kind of collective protagonist, which is how does this family kind of also fall apart, right? I think it could be either.
Yeah.
Can I just throw something in there being a mom?
Mm-hmm. That's what I want to hear.
What if the mom wasn't wrong, wasn't wrong all along? When she lost the first one, she kept praying for the child to come back and to be in good graces. And then she actually called Thompson out for having wicked ways. So what if it's that natural instinct that, kind of like Lee Remick and The Omen, when she sees her son as being evil right before she falls off the banister? What if the mother's intuitive instinct is right, but she seems so senile at some point that no one believes anything?
Yeah, I mean, she's getting more and more distraught. She's losing kids left and right, losing her husband. So, funny.
There's one last point. My mom and my uncle are fraternal twins, and they tell me stories all the time about how one would think something and the other would say it. So in the sense, when the two twins got vexed, I thought to myself, that is so, and they're fraternal twins as well. It's all you have to do is affect one for the other one to mimic or mirror the actions. So I totally felt that. I don't know if you guys.
That makes more sense to me now that the twins just followed each other, because that seemed very Crucible Salem witch trials to me. Alka, I think I discovered in my conversation that I think that the B story is Black Phillips, slow business,
Yeah, that's exactly what I have, which is
Is that what you have?
Yeah, which is B story is Black Phillip, and I think there's the hair, the witches, the magic, the woods. I mean, it's all kind of in that B story.
Yeah, Black Phillip causes a problem. Black Phillip is present when the other goat starts no longer giving milk but blood. Black Phillip is there when the witch shows up. Black Phillip eventually kills William.
Yeah.
And then Black Phillip transforms and speaks to Thomason. Did he transform into a human man with a leather glove? What was that? There was a human hand in a leather glove on her shoulder, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Or was that his hand?
When she says, "Oh, well, tell me what you want," if he's like, "Ah,"
yeah, all of a sudden it's a Funny or Die video. Yo, this could be an SNL skit if they have a Black Phillip SNL skit.
The outtakes for Black Phillip.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, that's that B story builds, right? That
Yes.
B story builds throughout. You have these moments with these twins where they're singing, at first it's just this kind of semi-dark nursery rhyme kind of thing that they're singing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of gradually builds where, oh, Black Phillip tells me this. Now they're talking to Black Phillip. And meanwhile, there are sightings of this hair. There's
I think the hair was the witch.
There are two witches.
Wasn't the hair the witch?
What if the hair was God? I'm just saying.
Interesting. It was a warning?
And you couldn't kill him, but it could be. I'm just putting it out there.
I thought the hair was the witch. You're right. They kept trying to kill him.
Yeah, I didn't. I knew it was this something in the woods, this magical force, and I think that it's all Black Phillip. It's all about.
It was his plan, man. It was his plan.
Yeah.
So real quickly, the fun and games. I'm not sure what the midpoint is. Maybe you give me your thing. What's your midpoint?
My midpoint is Caleb getting drawn into the lair of the witch.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I had Caleb's return as the midpoint, but they're very close. So, fun and games then are the Caleb runs off after the rabbit. Thomason's horse throws her, is knocked out. Caleb finds a wolf torn up. He wanders. Caleb finds the witch's house. I skipped some stuff. Thomason goes out to deal with the goats at dinner, finds the rabbit. Children overheard the worst truths of the family. Mother wants to send Thomason away.
Yes.
The Thomason and the Witch of the Wood song. Okay, so then eventually
and
Caleb,
the silver cup,
yes,
where
the silver
you're
cup is missing. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I had a conversation with my friend who I saw this with also about the silver cup being a cup being imagery in a lot of religious stuff, and the cup is the mother's father's cup, right?
Right.
And
So that's religious. What do you think about when you take communion? It's a silver cup.
That's interesting. Yeah,
It's a chalice. Yeah,
that's
I mean,
what I was going for. That's what I was going for. The
Yeah.
chalice that the father gave that husband his daughter and her chalice, the literal chalice, right?
Hold on. I'm just going to go deep
womb.
right now. What if that was the only thing religiously protecting the family, and when he sold it, that's what opened the door?
That sounds good. Absolutely, because he sold off the dowry that was like given by the mother's father to him, along with that's the metaphorical chalice and her literal chalice, her womb, right? Like the Holy Grail is the womb. And then
Yes, it is.
Then they were about to give. They were talking about selling Thomason, right, to another family, which is essentially giving her away and giving, once that she's reached reproductive age, we can give her away now, and so yet another sin, right? Like, and that is enough patriarchy to make anybody start up a coven and be like, fuck y'all.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's like William seals his fate when he goes along with this idea, right? He says he's going to take her in the morning. And that's what sets Caleb off in the morning to kind of intercede. So I think, that is also another point of interpretation, because let me tell you why I always thought it was her. Was because I felt like all these moments that happened, right? Where there was first she was there when Samuel disappeared, right? Then she overhears this conversation between her parents about, like, we're going to let her serve another family because we need the money. And she's there when all of this stuff happens. And I kind of kept thinking, now this is going to be like one of those, Fight Club, Shutter Island, it's always been her kind of moments,
There was going to be a twist.
There was. But I think that's what they were building out, if you ask me. Because she, in the first part with Samuel, her eyes were closed, right? She was kind of, there was this like peekaboo thing going on. Then here, she was on the horse with which kind of threw her off, and she kind of comes to. And every time something like this happens, it's like, oh, she's nearby, and things are going down. That she's like, no, but it wasn't me. So I think it's like they were building out a couple of different things. Like, I think this ending could have been like, they could have shot a couple of different endings and decided, okay, well, we'll go with this one.
I 100% agree with you, because there were a couple of times when, there was one time after she killed her mom and she came in, she got undressed, she laid down, and she went to sleep, and it went to black. I was like, oh, those obscure fucks, that's how they're going to end this movie. And then they kept going, and I'm like, that could have been an out. That could have totally been an out.
That could have been. Yeah, you're right. There was a couple times where they faded, and I was like, "Oh, they're gonna go ambiguous ending, blah blah blah." But no, we got the full Monty ending. We got the double twist ending.
And we don't know how many test audiences they did, to Alka's comment, to say what plays out better.
You guys, I don't feel that at all. This feels grand plan to me. This feels like that was the idea
A24 was behind it. I don't think they wouldn't have had a test screening. A24 is a French company. I think a French company. They've done
this is a $10 million. This is a $10 million movie. They're not doing.
It's not about how cheap
it is. They're not doing reshoots.
Marketing. It's all about like what will really sell, and it takes a lot. Having been on been with Focus Features and seeing what it takes a lot to bring it to.
But the B story is there. The seeds are planted.
No, I'm saying money for theatrical release. I would believe that she's right about them playing out a couple of scenarios before an American release, though.
Different versions of the ending, but she's a witch in all of them. Like,
sure.
She is, yes. She's a witch, but in one, she was always the witch. You know what I mean? In one, the twist is she was responsible for all the shit that happened.
I have to disagree.
And I think... and that's the Shutter Island ending, okay? That's one ending. And I think sophisticated audiences, like, they've seen that ending. They've seen it a number of times probably by now. So they're going to give you that little extra. And I'm not saying I didn't appreciate it. I'm just kind of, I think for me, what was problematic is I felt like they were building out something maybe a little tighter and smaller and family-based, you know?
I think I gotta disagree. I think this film was all about the corruption of a young girl to make her into a witch. It's about when you see the coven at the end, you realize it's not just one witch. This movie is not about this witch who's messing with them. This movie is about the making of a witch, the birthing, Christina, of a witch.
It definitely does give you that playbook. Like if you go back and you do Bram Stoker's, you're like, okay, that's how he came over and that's how he infested other people. So it gives you that playbook, but I feel like it's so much more. And I feel like it's kind of also a lesson to people about like waiting for it. We're going to give you long shots. We're going to give you high English, low English, whatever you want to call that crucible speak.
Essex accent. Yeah. But
so... And I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna do it.
Yes.
The people that left were Latinos, were minorities. So, and quite honestly, I didn't run to the Crucible because I wanted the Crucible. It was part of curriculum. So it's like, is this something that is fodder for horror versus, if we did Crucible right now, would it sell if we called it the Crucible?
Look, an audience. This was the thing is, this movie's been marketed the way every horror movie is marketed, but the tempo was a lot more deliberate. It was a lot, so people
maybe we have the same Crimson Peak problem, right? Is that you think you're walking into
same
horror
on the Crimson Peak podcast,
right?
But please see our Crimson Peak podcast.
Our Crimson Peak podcast was one in which Christina made the point that maybe if she had known better, if this film was marketed in a way to kind of reveal that this is what it is, this is what they're going for.
No, I remember very specifically,
like horror.
We said if they marketed as Guillermo del Toro's Jane Eyre. Right. We would have loved it because it would have been a very heightened version of Jane Eyre. But what we got was a very period version of a horror movie. Right. And so our perspective was screwed up. And so, yeah, I agree. The Witch was definitely pitched as every horror movie is pitched, as a genre film.
And if you're walking in for like the jump scare, it's not happening. This is not that film.
It's not full of that. It's not. It has a little bit, and that's not full of that. So let me run forward. A midpoint, it definitely is a Caleb. We lose Caleb, a beautiful witch seduces him. Another kind of pedophilia moment. It's really
And taken again
disconcerting.
another homage to The Shining. Did you catch that? Where
Which?
she was so young and beautiful, and then she kisses him and transforms into
the bath.
yeah,
Oh,
it's back.
that's great.
It's back, and that was also in Crimson
Wasn't that a
Peak.
bad bathtub scene?
Remember? There was bathtub scene in Crimson Peak, and there's this moment here in the midpoint where the witch
David?
kind of swallows him in a kiss.
I'm going to say this for you and every male listening. Always check a woman's hands before you make out with her.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
Because if her hands say 180 years old, bust out, like cut your losses. Poor Caleb,
Yeah.
he was going through puberty. He had a little bit of like, a little sexual awakening, and then his first kiss is this fucking, disgusting old witch.
Can we take it deeper again?
Yeah.
We said that we're building rules now that family units that stick together survive.
Yeah.
And we also built like the rules that it's religion and supernatural plays against reality. What if, and then when they lost the chalice, like a season later, they're building all this corn, the chalice gets sold, all of their crops are dead. What if the moment Caleb told a lie, which is, Mommy, we went to hunt for apples.
The apple lie. Right, and remember
when he over and is vulnerable to the devil.
Good point. Another, and the father allows the lie. I kept waiting for the father to tell Caleb, no, son, you do not lie to your parents.
Lied about the
exactly. The corruption was already too deep. And so when Caleb returns, he is
vexed.
He's vexed. He is actually, my friend told me that he's speaking from the Song of Songs, which is an Old Testament book that is erotic. It has a ton of eroticism in it.
Yes, it does.
And it also is talking about the kingdom of heaven at the same time. And so, but that's something that boy would never have heard in church, right? It's not something that they'll teach it. They'll have at the weekly hymn. So he's been imbued with this new level of religion, and he's got this apple in his mouth. Now, what do you make of that?
Well, that goes back to, I think there's this theme of religious fanaticism, and there are all these symbols like the apple, the chalice. And I think
the original sin apple.
Yeah,
and they're going out to hunt, and this.
Wait, let's go deeper. The chalice, when you do communion, it's drink of my blood to exonerate you of sin. So the chalice is gone, so there's no way of redemption through drinking of.
Nicely done.
Yeah, and so then
this podcast is creeping me out.
Yeah, Caleb up and dies. He screams out the prayers. He up and dies. The twins pass out, all catatonic. Now, were they playing or not? I don't know. At that point, the mother is trying to banish Thomason, and the father sort of tests her to see if she's a witch. They go a little bit crucible on us for a little bit, but very soon the father shakes the child. He says, all right, I'm gonna kill my son. And the son wakes up, and we realize the kids were kind of playing. Is that what happened?
Wait, no. What?
He wakes them up. They wake up. They were playing, or they were shook from it.
Are we talking after the point when the apple comes out of Caleb's mouth?
Yeah, and then Caleb dies, but the twins are catatonic.
They're hex. We talked about the fraternal twins. So
And the mother's claiming Thomason's the witch, and the father, in a very moderate sense, he says, I will find out if this is a natural sickness or not, and then he tests Thomason. He asks her, do you believe in in Jesus and the Bible, blah blah blah. And she's like, yes, 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 which is again, Alka, why I think she was not a witch until the end.
I don't think she was. I totally agree. I feel like she didn't cross over to that moment on,
Yeah, when she signs the deal with the devil.
Yeah, I think you're making a case. I'm just saying there's another case because there was this altered consciousness in a way every time something was going on. And so I think they were building a couple of different houses.
I think you're right. The other house was the mom was the witch. I think a lot of people were thinking maybe the mom's the witch.
No, she's right about alternate endings and alternate ideas, because someone even said, I read it somewhere, that these were transcripts, or maybe that was the end of the movie where they said it was transcripts compiled.
Yeah, that's what this filmmaker had said. Yeah, by Cotton Mather and a number of different sources. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
These were transcripts of what?
Of loosely based truths of what people believe to be stories. Folklore.
The Witch of the Woods was like a folk
So that's why I'm chanting what Alka said, because even if you build a script out from these transcripts, you have that wiggle room to make your determination on how it ends.
Yes, but as a screenwriter, there were so many seeds that were placed in this story. I feel like it was so expertly executed.
Agreed.
That it was deliberate. That this was the making of a witch kind of story.
Yeah, but I think that there was this awareness. I think really good filmmakers now. I think to get really meta about all of this, to get macro about it.
Do it. Get meta.
We are living in an age where there's so much good stuff to see,
Sure.
whether on television and film. And a really good, sophisticated audience is what you're getting, a lot of the times. And so people are thinking one step ahead, two steps ahead, we're all watching these films and kind of imposing our own histories, our own ideas of what is going on. For me, it was definitely about the dangers of religious fanaticism. I mean, it felt like this was a psychological thriller. It was about paranoia and dread and those kinds of elements, whereas I can totally see what you're saying, David. I mean, I think you're making a very strong case as well about this is how this young girl came to be a witch. I mean, that's, and we saw the same film, that speaks to, I think, a lot of ambiguity can be off-putting and, oh God, what was that about?
It's
but
American audiences hate ambiguity, but I think it was extremely well managed in this film.
Really nicely woven, because they're tying up, depending on what part of the frame you're looking at,
right?
You are really having a very singular experience.
Right, and the biggest red herring of all is who's the witch, right? Is it this one witch? Is the witch we keep seeing, is Thomason transforming into her?
I was thinking that too.
I was thinking that at one point. Is the mother transforming into her? There was a lot of good options there, and it was handled well.
Yeah.
Let me finish up structure, and then we can do a summation. Bad guys close in. We're doing. It's after Caleb. Mother wants Thomason gone. Father recognizes Thomason as a witch. He loves her, but he says she's signed a deal with the devil, so she's got to repent. And she's like, "No, dude, I didn't. Not yet. But I did." And then he says, "Speak." Then he says, "Speak the truth." And he's like, "I heard you, Mother, were getting rid of me. You took Mother's cup and let me, found responsible for it. You let Mother be as your master." And then she's like, "You are." He's like, "You are a witch." Later, Thomason tells Jonas and Mercy that, he said that they made a pact with the devil. You think the twins made a pact with the devil? What happened to them? Were they in the barn at the end when the witch came?
I think they were probably fed to the witches. They were like...
Did you?
They were... Yeah, I think they were like
they were young
extraneous. They served their purpose, and now onward and upward.
Alka, you gave a good point, or someone said something earlier that they'd been talking to Black Phillip for a while.
Yeah, you totally said that.
Yeah, so maybe, who knows? Maybe they signed their deal earlier than that. And then they get nailed into the barn because the father says, "You're all pretenders." And
I feel like that was the bad guys close in when they're nailed in the barn.
Definitely,
you start hearing the roof rustling.
Yep. You get this image of the twins next to Black Phillip, and the witch shows up, and there's another sort of ancestral image of the two twins holding each other, and then they look at camera. Did
they?
Yeah, they look at camera as a POV of the witch, and then we cut to the witch, and she makes a witch sound like ah.
And is this why she was like with the goats? Like she was actually like milking the goats or something?
Yeah,
no,
she was.
I thought this was the end. No, this is the end.
This is
that's
before that.
What we're
before
talking
that.
about. In the end,
yeah,
she's
so
like
she
either sucking, or
she was
feeding off the goats, or she's like milking the goats.
Oh yeah.
And then they turn around, and next thing you know,
she laughs. High-pitched laugh.
Yeah, high-pitched laugh. We get the cackle, the witch cackle. It's such a trope, but they did it different.
Wait, was that cut away to the next day?
We do. We get the next day. The father's is talking to God. It's my fault. I confess. I'm infected by pride. I beg thee. I have not damned my family. This feels very Dark Night of the Soul to me. The beginning of the Dark Night of the Soul. Then the mother has the dream. With the cup in it, that's such a great image. Finally, that we cut to the mother, and here's another thing: the mother's hair is finally down. In religious circles, the length of a woman's hair has to do with her piety, right? Like how, for the mother, the hair is all the way up and bundled in the front, like. For the whole time,
it's all tightly wound.
Tightly wound, and then it's half down in this dream, right? And we see the cup for the first time. We're like, cup, and then we see Caleb and Sam back, and we're like, oh, is this a dream? What's going on? And then that's when the witch comes to the barn at the same time, and then we get the mother breastfeeds the baby, and cut to reality. The mother's actually having her breast eaten by this raven. A raven.
I think that was still the dream, David.
Yeah. Is that dream or is
that is
because
dream,
she woke up with a bloody
later?
Which was dream?
I think it's all a dream. I think the Caleb
raven too.
No.
Her shirt is bleeding.
A raven. Yes, I think that's the part that's kind of like it's left up to interpretation, but there's no way.
No, but why would you do two versions of a dream? Either the kids are the dream or the raven's the dream. I think the raven was real. I think Black Phillip called an actual raven down, and then he also gave her this dream, and she's losing her shit, or she's a mother who's so distraught that she's having these hallucinations because she wakes up from that dream.
Okay.
Wait, what if we call the devil?
And she's bleeding from her breast.
Yeah.
And then now we are about to break into 3. The barn is destroyed. The father steps outside. The barn is destroyed. The goats are torn up. Thomason's alive.
There's one goat that's torn up, the white one.
Right. I thought they had 2 white goats, but okay. So the white goat's dead. There's no sign of the twins, so it's a question about where they went. Maybe they got eaten and ground down, mortar and pestle. We got some witch sun lotion, whatever, suntan lotion. And the black goat, Mr. Black Phillip.
Did you just say witch sun lotion?
Yeah, witch suntan lotion, SPF.
Just
SPF baby. SPF baby.
That's so wrong.
Yeah. So, and that is when Black Phillip skewers William and kills him. And so either you've got a whiff of death either in the ghost of Caleb and the baby returning, or you get a whiff of death in William being killed by Black Phillip. And now I believe that's our break into 3. The goat kills the father. He has a line where he says, he looks up at Gob, He looks up at God, Jesus, to him and says, "Corruption, thou art my father." And then he falls on the woodpile. Now, I think we're in the third act because the mother comes out of the house and her hair is all the way down. And she says to Thomason, she's no longer feeling her maternal instincts at all. She's like, "The devil is in thee." And
she might still be holding on to maternal instincts by sensing that.
yes. But, what was amazing to me, for the first time, we see that there's a resemblance because they both have these long blonde hair down now. For the first time, we see the resemblance, and we're like, wow, this is daughter on mother. And
What?
if you go with my theory of this was the grand plan of Lucifer, this is the biggest blasphemous thing you can do. Is a mother and a daughter are trying to kill each other, and our protagonist Thomason wins and cries about it. She ends up killing her mother and does not feel good about it, and then everybody's fucking dead but Thomason. She gets up. She goes and she has that beautiful moment where she goes back in the house and goes to sleep.
But wait,
After she takes her dress off.
How many people didn't believe Jesus? I'm sorry, we have to take it there. If in that the whole spectrum of like Jesus, like, oh, I'll take care of you. Let's have our final Last Supper. Let's just call it the Last Supper. Blah blah.
Sure.
But for most people religious, I'm religious respectively. Jesus is like now revered. So what if the mother was still in her sane mind and she was like the Jesus to the counterpoint, which was her daughter, which was like soon to be a witch.
Right. Well, actually,
I don't want to make her just delusional. I feel like she does have a purpose in the script, even when she seems like super out there. I feel like there is a deeper layer that makes her. You can't just say, "Oh, the mom was like a loony bat, so she needed to get chopped." There's reasoning there.
I was also always looking. Thomason's name is very interesting, and I was thinking about doubting Thomas. In not believing in faith or that's a parable in Christian religion about the story of Thomas who didn't believe in Jesus. He needed to prove to him. Anyway, I don't want to go off a tangent, but that beautiful moment. What was that moment about? It was like a denouement, right? The denouement where there's like a quiet before the storm, where Thomason goes back into the house, takes off her dress, and just like
falls asleep again.
Yeah.
See, this is where I'm seeing like again and again these moments of her like consciousness. Like there are a few times where she's sleeping or she's out of it or there's something, and it's very suspicious, right? Because it's like I thought, is she going to wake up and not, has this been a dream or is this, because I felt like up to this point, they kind of, every time that she kind of that fell off that horse or she was kind of, in and out with the baby, I just thought like, oh, okay, this has all been her. But then they go a step further and they're like, no, this is her now, right? This is her waking up and doing the thing that she's going to have to do to seal this deal.
To me, it was like she's on her own now fully.
Yeah.
The idea of a girl on a farm, the farm is no longer functioning. There's no longer animals. The father's not doing anything. No one's sleeping in beds. She goes into the table, leans her head on the dinner table, falls asleep. That's very much like a child left alone image. And then she wakes, and then we have our finale.
Yeah.
Thomason goes to sleep on the table. She goes to the barn, and she asks Black Phillip if he can speak. And I was fucking shocked.
Wait, Alka, did you like this part? I was too. I agree with him. I was shocked.
I didn't see the Black Phillip B story coming at all. I kept looking for the witch to return.
Or
Well,
a person.
or I thought it was like Thomasin and her mother. While I was watching, by the way, I thought Thomasin and her mother were the B story.
Yeah.
But at this point, I liked I liked the goat speak.
It was great. He had a seductive voice, a smooth voice.
Would you like to live deliciously? Would you like
that
taste
was
butter?
WJLB too, so
Would you like butter on your bread?
I can't with both.
Or margarine? We have both in hell. Right?
Well,
would you like a new
devil goat voice?
Would you like a
it
new
was
dress
so shocking,
from Express?
Going back to
or possibly Barney's?
Okay, David.
David's at the mall.
Would you like to see the world? Kontiki tours. Study abroad.
I don't know what is going on.
Sign.
No, he's having a Black Phillip moment.
Black Phillip's awesome. He's selling her everything. She's like, and then all of a sudden the book of the devil appears, and she knows exactly what it is. She's like, where do I sign? And she's like, I don't know how to sign my name, which was actually a really poignant moment at the end. You're like, of course, she's a girl. They don't
Literacy
teach women.
America, stop.
Yeah. And he says, I will guide thy hand. And then you get that black hand on her shoulder. It's either he's black, like, because he's wearing a leather glove.
Just stop it.
Yeah, or he is ashen, because he is Lucifer.
The devil, God, they don't have color. Just stop it.
Okay. And he says, I will guide thy hand. And then he's like, my favorite line of the movie, remove your shift. P.S.
That is such a dude thing to say.
Take off your nightie. Like that was.
I'm
gonna be saying that to girls. I'm gonna be saying that to girls for like the next year and a half. I'm gonna just be like, come on over, Netflix and chill, and remove your shift.
But
Netflix, chill, remove your shift.
This is not for Showtime. We're talking about a straight, not quite curriculum movie that's actually really well done. And I feel like that leans back to the purity of the body that we don't at this point as another
her rebirth. It is her rebirth. Yes,
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Okay.
But I think now we're at that point.
But then we get she walks naked through the forest and she finds the covenant.
Could it have ended there?
Yes. You could have ended
but let's go further. No, but why? Let's take it all the way.
Okay, so I'm going to say, because I know
the witches are worshiping by the fire, and for me, that's the moment when I knew the movie was about the making of a witch, because there wasn't just one. There's a covenant.
You need to see the coven to know what it was about?
Yes, the covenant said to me, this is not about that one witch in the house who seduced poor Caleb. This is about the making of a new witch, Thomasin. That's when I saw that there was a covenant. This is not Black Phillip has a plan to fuck with one family. This is Black Phillip starting an army.
Yeah.
And I like that they fly.
Understand,
I like that they fly.
Let's say, did you need to see her levitate?
Well, it was a nice touch because, frankly, it's like, give us what we want in the end of a witch movie. A little bit of what we want. And you'll notice he didn't just go all genre-y, because Thomasin, on the way up when she's flying, she smiles at first, but then she's scared, and then she's like fighting it. You see in her face, her expression, you see ecstasy, and you see fear, and then you see her give in, which is sort of the whole metaphor for signing away your soul with the devil.
Yeah, I think, for me, that last moment with her levitate, I think that's what kind of really turned me off.
It was too much for you.
I hear everything you're saying, and I even kind of get, like, this is why he did it, because isn't this like the promise of the premise? a witch.
Yeah,
You know, and
absolutely.
what is the mythology of the witch? She flies around,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
And
they're
it's not
gonna
on a
give you, they're
broomstick
gonna
or
give you,
anything, but they can levitate.
yeah, they're gonna give you that, fulfill those tropes, and say this witches fly, witches,
And to
you
me,
know,
I
defy
love
gravity.
I love a little magical realism to punch the metaphor at the end of my films. It reminded me a lot of the Black Swan, right? The Black Swan is an emotional arc for the Natalie Portman character that's very, very subtle throughout the whole film. But then in the finale, they use the magical realism of her transforming into an actual swan with feathers and skin and the black eyes and the red eyes and the black eye makeup as this magical realism to punch the metaphor. And to me, that's what filmmaking is about. If you're going to do cinema instead of a novel, give us a visual finale.
Hallelujah. Can I get an amen?
Amen. Okay, I don't know where you guys on which side of the fence, because you just took me to church, David. But I liked her floating up. I don't know who I'm agreeing with right now, because the only thing is I love the black and white cut of the lighting, that you didn't know if she was smiling or really eerie in the nose, the nostril, and the mouth region.
Yeah, it was both. It was like she was struggling.
Churros.
She liked it, she loved it, or
what's
she
the
didn't.
phrase, guys? Churros. I always say it, the chorizo lighting, I call it. Chiaroscuro lighting,
Yeah,
with our black light.
Chiaroscuro.
Exactly, but that for me just, it said everything, because it was her smiling, her happy, and then her like a grotesque Twilight night gallery creature, and that kind of said everything to me. Who's loving the witch ascending? Who's hating? So I know.
I was a fan of the flying. Yeah, I wanted to go there, but Alka was saying that it was too much for her.
I kind of, I felt like the way it had been set up with the ambiguity, and I think, you know, I think after talking to you guys, I see the wisdom and the choices that were made in those last few minutes. But for me, I thought, like, it would have been cool if they just had her walking into the woods. Like, I got that. Like, she was the witch now.
It would have worked.
You know? I mean, we already knew there was another witch in there. Like, I don't know that I need to see.
I wanted to see her.
But I think that
where is that forest?
There.
Like, I'd like to
That's
see
enough.
her. I like that I think they could have ended with her joining the coven. They didn't need to go. The flying was very visual. But
okay,
I needed
David,
to see that she was
a part
You're of a bigger
malarkey.
Story.
You're a ridiculously strong writer and teacher. If you just had her walking, I'm agreeing with Alka right now. You had her walking into a dark wood. You don't have to see the ladies in the distance, and then you dolly the camera up to a full moon and cut. You don't have to show your blatant women dancing around the circle of fire.
That says that Black Phillip has converted her, but he doesn't have a grand plan. When you see the coven, you say, "Oh my God, he's starting an army."
You're watching way too many comic book movies. Not everyone. Women don't.
No, this is the mythology of Lucifer. This is the mythology of the devil. He's not just focused on corrupting you for fun. You know, one woman at a time. He has a huge grand plan to take over. He's corrupting everybody. And guess what? You know, it also fulfills the mythology of witches. They travel in covens. They are not solo.
Yes. True.
Yeah.
And they dance naked a lot. So
okay, I want to not side with you, because I think you have this testosterone view that annoys me. But the whole idea that witches do a coven thing, it didn't have to be. I'll give you this, although I loved the way it looked. It didn't have to be so blatant, naked woman around the fire.
Yeah.
It could have been a little bit more subtle.
It was a great contrast.
The coven thing did need to be something to complete her journey as a witch.
The new
because they had done, and this is the thing, is that it was very restrained throughout. You were wondering, like, except for the fact that they did keep showing you witches. There was like
and when
it was
you saw a
within
witch, it was her
family,
full naked body.
yeah. I think it's like, they did show you the witches throughout, so they kind of played out that arc.
Yeah.
But in a way, because they had shown you those witches throughout, you knew they existed, right? You knew they were there. And because you had just seen this moment with like Black Phillip, like this ridiculous moment with this goat coming to life as the devil, it's like, do you need to see the coven? That's like, it's too much at the end, when you've been relatively restrained throughout. It's kind of like, oh, this feels odd. It feels like it doesn't necessarily belong. There was a part of it that was just like, that took me out.
But what
Okay, wait, David.
about the idea of two things? One, I was saying the nudity really contrasted the puritanical clothing very well, like the done-upness of all the Puritan stuff and the hats and the bodices and whatever, all the tying up, you have to do. But also the idea, and we were talking about this for the whole film, which is the idea of a group and the family. She left one family and joined another.
Oh,
right?
interesting.
Right, that her father was gonna sell her off to some
Right.
family down the road.
To
Guess
another
what?
family.
Guess what? Black Peter bought her. Join my
Philip.
family.
Philip.
Sorry, Black Phillip bought her.
Black
Yeah.
Peter is his cousin from
Black Peter's his
Des Moines.
cousin who's at
Gets all the girls.
he's at the casino. He's the degenerate gambler cousin.
Goes to AC all the time.
Yeah, he's in Atlantic City corrupting. He's making you go to the ATM and bet on blackjack again.
David, you should totally have like a segment on your podcast. It's called "This is how we would rewrite it," because we have all been like chowing down on if it only we just need it. It could have been.
Yeah. Well, that is not a segment on our podcast. That is 100% what our podcast is. And
True.
we're coming to the end. So you guys want to last comments or questions, things or comments that you didn't get to say tonight that you've been dying to say? Anything?
Alka?
Well, the discussion that I felt like I wanted to have, but I don't know whether, it's juicy enough. Is this a feminist film?
Question.
Hey.
It's like I was a little discomfited by what was like this interpretation of teenage sexuality, female teenage sexuality. This girl is kind of an object for her brother. And then it's like she's dangerous for the unit in a way, is what I feel like all of this kind of adds up to, right?
Are you saying her sexuality was one of the things that made her mother suspect her? Like her mother feels jealous of her?
Deep.
That's awesome. I just actually I just saw A View from the Bridge on Broadway, the Arthur Miller play of a very similar theme. So the one of the main themes of that is the mother is saying this: we've got to get this young girl out of the house. She's old enough to be out of the house. Get her out of the house. Let her move on with her life. And so maybe Thomasin is of that age where she better get out of the house.
Yeah, and I mean the mother does say to either the father or to Caleb, that Caleb is looking at her. I see him looking at her. I mean, she doesn't miss anything.
The mother said that in the movie?
Yeah, and it makes
I didn't
her
catch
seem,
that.
Yeah, it makes her seem very dangerous throughout. And I feel like her hitting puberty, her coming into womanhood is kind of like presented as her kind of transitioning into the witch.
Yeah.
And to me, that's also that doesn't sit very well.
Isn't the idea of a witch's coven sort of a generally pro-feminist sort of story mythology, right? Like they're a group of women who are comfortable with their bodies and are, unifying, casting spells on people, and I don't know. what else do they do around the fire? It's very
Ritual based.
ritual. Yeah, they're
Just like the Bible. I mean, there are a lot of.
so
Gosh,
it
that's
seems
deep.
like a very pro-feminist sort of set of imagery. The coven is probably
I mean, she does break free. So, you know, if you look at the ending there with the levitation et al., I think you look at that and you say, okay, this is a person who was really constrained by her society, by her family, uh, by the fact
yeah,
that she
the
was
religion,
of
yeah.
her sexuality, you know, and then at the end she is set free. So
Yeah, the father says, tell me the truth, and she says, you're not a really good dad, and he says, damn it, you're a witch. That's like classic sort of 1630s patriarchy, right? So becoming a witch, that's a way to piss your dad off, right? She hooked up with the bad boy and ran away, right?
Black Phillips.
Let's like bring it back. Like take all the surrealism and the horror. The basic idea of a folklore and horror is folklore lore. A lot of do you remember Jason 10, the Friday 13th? They made fun of all of his tropes, and one was if you do bad things and you're naughty, you will get killed. This kind of was like an overarching kind of like similar trope in that if you there are certain aspects of you that crave the dark side, and I'm not saying this poetically correct, that it's inevitable that you will be converted over. I don't think it was a far stretch. I don't think if anyone remembers in that barn, she wasn't just like, oh my God, this is so horrible. She's like, what do you want? What's going to make this good?
But what do you think in Alka's question about whether it's a feminist film or not?
It's how you interpret it. If you are like the whole idea of witches, you're going to say this is pro-feminist because this is the birth of a witch, and it talks about how she has to commit to that coven. So far as the other female characters, I don't know. We'd have to go on a deeper analysis, like of the mother of the twin sister, and their contrast them to their male counterparts, because I don't know that is necessarily a strong feminist story. Like how all of the women got slain except for the one that was a witch because she was guided by a man. That doesn't sound so feminist.
Well, it's arguable if Black Phillip is a man, right? Because isn't Lucifer
what does his Twitter say right now?
Genderless, yeah. I think, yeah. So why don't
you friended him, Alka? Just tell us.
He's just living deliciously.
Yeah. Would thou like to live deliciously? I think
Who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't? With butter and dresses? Hell yeah. And traveling the world? Yeah, totally.
Yes.
I think we can go out on that, guys. Thank you, Alka. Thank you, Christina. This is The Script. The Script is produced by Jordan Rosengarten and David Negrin. Please join our Facebook page by searching for NYC Screenwriters Collective. Follow us on Twitter at ScriptFeed. Follow Black Phillip on Twitter also. It's hysterical. You can support The Script podcast at patreon.com/thescript.